Hello, YouTube. So I was kind of skulking around um, YouTube today, and I came across DasAmericanAtheist's video from like 9 months ago, maybe even more. Uh, what is the Bible? And I think that it's an interesting video uh, within which he posits that there is a biographical dimension uh, within the Bible, right? That in some sense that this is a biography of God, um, or at least there's that level to it. It documents his various interactions throughout history, etc. Um, and he contrasts that the biography of an agency. He contrasts that with a attempting to get at an ideal, like democracy is the example that he would give, or that he did give. Um, Now, it seems to, first of all, I want to say that that the Bible is a remarkable document in a very interesting way, and I don't know of any other book that it's quite the case about. Um, in that the Bible is a series of texts, 60 something texts, and interpolations even within those texts, um, from different time periods, from different contributors. Like if you look at the literature on the Torah, how there are four sources: the E source and the J source, the upper kingdom of Israel, the lower kingdom of Israel, and this is why you get like stories will repeat themselves in different sections in the Bible. So I think that there are two accounts of the creation in the Bible, and all of this, because you have these two different sources, um, and they'll be sort of slightly different. Um, so you have the E source and the J source, and then the P source, which is the priestly class, who also kind of threw in their 2 cents within it, and then the D source, right? Deuteronomy is um, supposed to have been written probably all by one author, and it's a different author than the other three. I think that's that's something of an accurate account on the question of the sources of the Bible. And then you also have the great redactor, the guy who put the stuff together into one, and like compiled it into one text. And this is a sort of an image for how the whole Bible was put together, in that um, over the course of 2,500 years, probably less than that, more like 1,000 years, somewhere between 1,000 years and 2,500 years, there was a series of texts produced, and there are a lot of texts produced that didn't. So the Bible is also something that's, there are all these, it's constantly pointing off camera, if you will, to the context within which it is couched. But what you get in the Bible, because of this progressive historical compilation, is this vast labyrinth of thought, from different time periods, by different people in different contexts. Some people who were at war, some people who weren't, some people, all sorts of different stuff, and you have a vast context of genres at work and all of this. But I think that the Bible has to be historicized to a degree. So it doesn't seem to me to make sense to say that the Bible is a biography of God, or that there is a biographical element within it. I mean, you can read it that way, right? Jack Miles has a book called God, a Biography. Um, and but it seems to me to be more proper to start with the assumption that God is ineffable. God is something that is totally unknowable, and these texts that are produced and the interpolations within those texts and et cetera, these layers of complexity, are all sort of ways at getting at that which can't be gotten at, right? And that for me is the central contradiction, I guess, the generative contradiction at the heart of the Bible. This struggle to describe the indescribable. And I feel like the reading, any kind of reading, biographical element, where it must have a it must be, let's say literally true or something like that. It reminds me of an old Zen Buddhist story, or saying more like it, where the idea is that a Zen master points at the moon, and all of his students look at his finger and don't look at the moon, right? And that's sort of what's happening, I think, in this kind of reading of the Bible, is that what's being focused on is the finger and not what the finger is trying to point at, right? And I think that one fascinating thing about it is that as the Bible goes on, there's a sort of opening up, right? That is to say that the Old Testament has a very, very tribal God with very tribal values. And then by the end of the Old Testament, you get to I think it's Malachi. There's a line in there where he says, and I will be great among the Gentiles also, or something like this. I'm sure somebody can correct me and give the exact line. But you see this opening up within the Old Testament, and it leads to the New Testament, where you have something like a universalization, right? And that fact, that shape of the Bible, given how the Bible was produced and compiled and all of this, seems to me to reflect not a growth in God. I mean, I am an atheist, but it doesn't seem to me that it reflects a growth in God. Even that, I don't think there's any version of Christianity within which that would make sense. But rather, it reflects a growth in the people who are thinking about it, right? So again, it reflects a growth in the finger and not the moon. And that, to me, is really the biographical dimension of the Bible. If we could say, to put it in Hegelian terms, there's the Bible is sort of a totally unique biography of world spirit, right? Of or a particular strain of world spirit, absolute spirit, or objective spirit, whatever however you want to translate Geist, to put it in Hegel's terms. So that's the biography that's happening here. It is man fumbling with something that can't be played with, can't be, you're trying to write something that can't be written, that doesn't make sense to put into words, but rather is something more like an experience. So this is why, first of all, the breadth of the time periods and different contexts and different writers and such. I think that this is what makes the Bible such a remarkable text. And again, I don't know if there's any other text that anyone can point to that's quite like it, in that sense, compiled over such a long period of time, in such a variety of ways. And yeah, that's why I think it's different, qualitatively different than something like Steinbeck, which is, Does American Atheist said in there that that if it doesn't have this biological dimension, how is it different from any other book? I think that that's kind of how it is different. And I think that the 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 unfolding of the narrative that's present in the Bible, which is probably sort of retroactively inscribed into it by the people who compiled the Bible. Uh, but that narrative it doesn't seem to me to be about God. It seems to me to be about people thinking about God. So there's a meta dimension to the document, and the the contemplation of people contemplating God seems to me to be and what emerges out of that contemplation seems to me to be perfectly consistent with perhaps a slightly more mystical conception of Christianity. It doesn't seem to me to debase, let's say, the Bible or what the Bible is or how people interact with the Bible or anything like that. It doesn't seem to me to be it doesn't seem to me to be like useless or just another book or something like that. It is something to think about. Uh, Again, as an atheist, for me, it's something to think about for very different reasons than it's something to think about for a Christian. Um, uh, and maybe I'll make another video going into the reasons why I think that religion is so fascinating and so important, because I do think it is, and therefore why the Bible is so fascinating and important. But just to the terms of what the Bible is and what's going on in the Bible, how the Bible inscribes it, or what the goal of the Bible is, which is probably far too much of an oversimplification. Those are sort of my thoughts on it. So, yeah, have a good day.